In this tutorial, we're going to be using our digital complexion neutralizers to reduce redness on the skin. We're going to be using, to begin with, the Clean & Care, the natural cleansing oil. Completely vegan friendly. It's made predominantly of vegetable extracts. It's just going to remove any impurity, but also it's nice to actually stimulate the skin and the blood flow around the face before applying makeup. This is natural micellar water, and the micellar water is just going to lift and remove any excess of the cleansing oil from the skin so that it doesn't affect the longevity of the foundations and concealers we're going to use today. When I'm cleansing, I generally pay particular attention to the areas that are prone to being dry. So around the nostrils and around the corners where the nose joins the brow bone here as well. These are typical areas where foundation can look sometimes a little bit more cakey or a little bit drier. So we really want to make sure that skin's nice and prepped. I don't want to dry the skin any further. I want to actually hydrate the skin. So my first choice is going to be the Digital Complexion Primer for dry skin. I always prefer to use fingers to apply primers. It allows me to kind of feel the skin and find out where the drier areas are, so then you can know where you need to kind of work the product in a little bit more, or where potentially you'd need more hydration. As you can see, I'm not applying a lot of the product. The Digital Complexion Primers and all of the Digital Complexion range are known as high performance products. So literally less is more. The more product that you try to push into a pore, the more chance it is that it will eventually kind of push back, and that's when you can get creasing or lining or texturized makeups. So I am working the primer just into the hairline a little bit as well. You never want there to be an immediate line where the makeup stops, and you'll see a visible difference between the colouring and the texture of the natural skin and where you've applied the makeup. So repeating that other process on the other side as well. I'm going to be using the Digital Complexion Neutralizer, DCN41. It's a green undertone. Green, when we look at the colour wheel, is placed directly opposite reds and oranges. So we know that they are going to correct each other. So in order to neutralise redness, the hint of green undertone is going to help to reduce that and bring it back to a neutral state. So I'm going to be mixing the DCN41 with the Digital Complexion Concealer to achieve a good neutralization of the red pigmentation. I'm going to do this as a kind of a 2-part concealer, 1-part neutralizer, and then I'm just going to test this next to the areas of the natural skin. And when you're stippling that concoction of the two onto the skin, it should remain looking like skin tone. You shouldn't see an obvious green effect being applied. So I always like to do the 2-part application. So one is my application brush that has the product on, and the other one is just a clean blending brush that helps to gently push the product into the skin. And I'm using, again, the stippling motion, so we don't want to completely conceal the entire skin around the face so that we don't see any natural elements coming through. We're purely using a light, almost just a tint of this. It's the green hue in the DCN41 that will prevent that redness from then coming through later on. So if you was just to use a concealer over this, it could temporarily conceal the redness. But then as soon as you start moving and your body temperature raises, you may find that that concealer starts to look a lot warmer than it did when you first apply it, and that would be the redness counteracting through underneath. Whereas that slight hint of the green will always help to kind of neutralize the redness as it's coming up from the surface of the skin. So in order to see the effect of the neutralizer clearly, we're going to be working on half of the face. I'm just working in between the facial hair here. So this is when I spoke to you earlier about making sure that you're connecting the skin between the hairs that we can see and the natural, fresher looking part of the face where we don't have this stubble. You can always then go back in just with the concealer this stage and just give a little bit more coverage to any of the areas where you particularly see there's more coming through. so that it looks as natural as possible. The next step is to use the Digital Complexion Fluid Foundation. I've chose the shades P05 and P04, so we are just going to be using a very light amount of the foundation. I'm going to be using larger brushes than I did for the concealing, but it's the same concept. One brush for application and then one soft clean brush for blending. So again, I like to use that stippling motion because we're mindful the Digital Complexion products are designed to be 4K plus friendly, which means that we're working with them high resolution cameras, and in order to make sure that the skin looks natural on high resolution, we need to be using the techniques that allows the camera to believe that this is the natural impression of skin. Our skin naturally isn't one shade. So if we just use a paddle brush of foundation and wipe over the surface of the skin, we end up with one block of color. Then on 4K plus technology, that looks really artificial because all we're seeing is one shade coming through. So the stippling motion actually encourages the skin to have little flecks of nuance of color within the foundation base, which is how you achieve something looking a lot more natural on 4K plus technologies. So I'm just focusing on the areas that potentially need a little bit more coverage. You don't always have to apply your foundation everywhere. You should always be mindful of using the least amount of product as possible. When you're working on the eyelid and underneath the eye, be very mindful that this is the thinnest part of the skin on the face. So you don't want to overload the product in these areas because the skin will simply push the product back, and that's when it can cause it to gather in the fine lines around the eyes and look like the product is creasing. Now I'm going to finalize the other half of the face so that we can see the full impact of the coverage. Now we're going to apply the Digital Complexion Finish Powder. This is a silicone-based finish powder, and the best thing to know about this is that it's a touch-up powder. All of the Digital Complexion products are self-setting, so there's no need to fix them with a powder. This is just simply to be able to wipe over the top of the foundation, gently remove shine, making sure that there's not a lot of product on the brush. It's just going to gently remove any excess shine on the skin and just give a smoother finish. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed our video today. If you've got any questions, please just put them in the comments section. If not, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.